Oh.
On the liver?
In the liver. Okay. Now
that's what we use the glucagon for, right?
Correct, to help release that glycogen to be converted into sugar or to be converted back. Okay. So the term, as you see in front of you, is glycolysis, is the process of using glucose to produce ATPs. So that's the creating of the energy. All right. So in the cell, in the mitochondria, there's a process, and you don't need to know this unless you got to take biology in the future, is utilizing the Krebs cycle. That's how it gets broken down. But that's just other info that you're not going to be tested on. Okay, so we've created ATP. Now, as a diabetic, and because of the candy bar that I ate and those Lifesaver gummies that I've been eating, my blood glucose this morning, and it wasn't, but we'll just say my blood glucose this morning was 400.
Damn.
It was not 400.
I know.
He just said it wasn't 400.
I know, but it has been years ago. So tell me what my body is going through with a blood sugar of 400.
You don't have any insulin?
Okay, but I'm a type 2 diabetic.
The buildup of ketones?
DKA.
Is it HHNK?
You don't have enough insulin right now.
Okay, so let's go back. So Dominic said that I don't have any insulin, but I said I'm a type 2 diabetic. What does that matter?
Because you do have insulin, just not enough.
Correct. My body as a type 2 diabetic does create insulin, but not enough insulin, or there's something wrong with my insulin. But I got insulin.
Whereas my body doesn't produce any insulin being a type 1.
Exactly. Type 1 diabetics, they don't produce any insulin whatsoever.
Nope.
And that's why they need constant insulin injections or an insulin pump, because their bodies are not creating any insulin whatsoever. Okay. So regardless whether type 1 or type 2 diabetics, what is happening inside the body?
It's changing the pH balance.
No, I mean we will eventually, but we're not there yet.
Body can process the high levels of the glucose?
Okay, why? Actually, that's not the why question, because why is because there's not enough insulin or no insulin, right? So that blood is causing what to the tissues and the cells?
Causing it to get more acidic.
Okay, but we're not there yet. You're right. It's going to become acidic. But again, going back to what is happening with that 400 BGL.
Your body's not producing enough insulin to get it out of the system.
Correct. We've already established there's not enough insulin.
Or your body's not reading the insulin that's getting released in order for it to.
Okay.
It does create enough energy for the cell.
Okay. Yeah. there's not enough energy being produced because there's not enough sugar going inside the cell. But what I'm getting at is, what starts to happen is that blood starts becoming hypertonic. Remember we talked about at the beginning of today, in that now it's pulling fluid from the interstitial and from the intracellular area. So it's causing the patient to become dehydrated, right?
Yes.
All right. So we know that the body needs sugar in order to function, to create energy. Is it just going to give up, or is it going to do something to make up that sugar?
It's gonna metabolize ketones.
Well, no. Ketone is going to be a byproduct. You're right. We're going to have ketones, but why are we going to have ketones?
Because you're burning
I
fat?
talked about this I think it was last week.
Is it because you're burning fat?
There you go. So the body's going to start breaking down fat in order to have glycogenesis. In other words, it needs to literally pull sugar out of its butt. It needs to create it from somewhere. Okay. Like the kid that asked mom for money, and she's like, honey, I don't have any money. Well, just go to an ATM. Well, it's not that easy. Well, let me slide the card down your ass crack and you'll get some money. Or no, what do you want me to do? Slide it down my ass crack and get money out of my ass? I forget exactly, but that's the punchline. Sliding the ATM card down the ass crack.
No, they always say you're gonna pull it out of your ass.
Well, yeah, that's why you slide the card down the ass crack, as it's reading when you swipe it.
That's what you do when you run out of bills at the strip club.
Jeez. Man, you guys are like pooping
I'm
out
kidding.
on.
I'm kidding.
Lou,
What?
is it true that type 2 diabetics, some are just on pills and other ones are on insulin shots?
Yes, but usually they're on pills too.
All pills
That's
also?
where the insulin-dependent diabetics and non-insulin-dependent diabetics comes in.
Okay.
Yeah, type 2, they'll be on pills because their body is still producing insulin.
Okay.
Type 1 diabetics won't be on pills because their body's not producing insulin whatsoever, so they'll only be on the insulin shots, or like I said, the insulin pump.
Okay.
So anyway, going back to glycogenesis. So the body has to get that sugar from somewhere, and as Dominic said, it's going to burn up fat. Now, as somebody else said, burning that fat is going to create ketones. That's a byproduct, is ketones. And I think I talked about this the very first day when we did orientation. I mentioned how we're just talking about diabetes. And so as a result of building up ketones, how does the body recognize ketones as? An acid?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And what does the body do to neutralize acids?
We try to urine it out.
Okay.
Creates
Part of it
bicarbonate.
will be urinated out. Huh?
Creates bicarbonate, or what it's called? Bicarbonate.
Okay, yeah, it's gonna release bicarbonate to break it down, right? And it breaks it down into what?
Water and CO2.
Into what in CO2?
Into water. No?
Okay. But before it gets to that point, what is it creating? It's another acid. I know I
Pyruvic?
talked about this today. Huh?
The pyruvic?
No, not pyruvic.
Lactic.
Nope, not lactic. Carbonic acid. Carbonic. And that gets further broken down into water and carbon dioxide. So as I think it was Eric said, we urinate it out. Yeah, the excess water is absorbed and eventually when it goes through the kidneys, it'll be sent out that way. And the other part is the carbon dioxide gets in the lungs and we exhale it. Now, what happened to your carbon dioxide level in your body?
It decreased when you urinated, but if you don't, then it
No.
increases.
No, it won't be affected by the urination. But you're right. The level of carbon dioxide is going to increase. So what happens when there's an increase in the carbon dioxide level in the body?
Acidic.
It's what?
Does your heart rate increase to try to,
It's
your
harder.
respirations increase?
It makes
The
a-
respirations are going to increase, right? A buildup of carbon dioxide. Remember that carbonic drive?
Mhm.
So it's going to go up to blow off that excess CO2.
Mhm.
Okay. But now it was initially ketones, part of acetone. And what does that smell like?
Like a sweet,
Sweet smell.
sweet smell.
It's a sweet smell. So the patient can have what we call Kuzma respirations, remember?
Mhm.
Shallow, rapid breathing.
Yeah.
With pursed lips. Right? With a fruity odor to the breath. And what happened is the patient created that energy from burning up fats. Now, somebody kind of mentioned this at the beginning. Somebody mentioned DKA, and then Julio mentioned HHNK, or I forget what they use in the book. I know it as HHNK. So which one am I going to have? Or am
DKA.
I going to have a particular one?
DKA.
Type 1 diabetics are going to have DKA, type 2 are going to be HHNK.
There you go. As a type 2 diabetic, I'm going to get HHNK, not DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. The reason being is because my body produces insulin, I will be in HHNK, not DKA. Now, Sherry, as a type 1 diabetic, can have DKA, and it won't even reach to 400. She could have it in the low 200s
Yeah.
and be in DKA. I've been at 600 and I was fine. Well, wasn't feeling very well, but I've had my sugar tested in class and it was like 600.
Oh my God.
What?
It's horrible.
I'm a Mexican male. I'm stubborn.
God. Yeah.
So, all right. So the cells are needing that that sugar. They're also needing the oxygen, but we're needing that sugar. The other thing about blood sugars when they're elevated and the diabetic goes to the bathroom, it's gonna smell. You could smell the sugar in it. It's actually gonna smell like the Kellogg's Honey Smacks. One thing to remember and we'll talk about it again with diabetic emergencies, is that a patient, if you suspect them of either being hyper or hypoglycemia, remember that with hyperglycemia, there's too much sugar drawing fluid out of the cells and the tissue. Oh, sorry. Was that patient dehydrated?
Yes.
They
Yes, they
could
were.
be, yes.
Yes. And so your signs and symptoms of hyperglycemia are going to mimic those of dehydration. The other way to tell is the onset, whether it's a sudden or a gradual onset. With hyperglycemia, it's a gradual onset. If it's hypoglycemia, then it's a rapid onset. But the other thing is, and this is why I always tell you guys, the body needs two things. It actually needs a couple more, but the two most important things it needs are sugar and oxygen. So if it's not getting one of those, what did we say about the body's inability to deliver perfusion? It's shock. So your hypoglycemic patient is going to show signs and symptoms that mimic shock. You guys with me there?
Yes, sir.
All right. You guys want to take a 5-minute break to let things sink in?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. 5 minutes.
You won't.
Huh?
Move! Hmm.